Hi guys, this is the Casual Fan, and welcome to the very first edition of the Casual F1 Fan podcast. So, for the very first edition, the inaugural one, we have Jason Hassett, the founder of Wheel Sports. Jason, welcome to the very first edition. So, how are you feeling? What's your view? Please introduce yourself to my 1.2k subscribers and a few others who actually found this video.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. So I'm Jason Hassett, founder of Wheel Sports, as you said. So Wheel Sports, we're relatively new as well. Started kind of 12, 13 months ago, cover F1, and we just started covering F2 and F3 as well on YouTube, and we've got a podcast. But yeah, just a obsessed F1 fan that kind of needed a camera to shout at. So like yourself, I started a YouTube channel.
And so, by the way, when did the whole F2 and F3 thing start? You have a separate channel for this, or is it entirely in the same channel? You just added a different, a different extension
No,
to that.
so we have the Wheel Sports feeder channel, which was just started 2-3 weeks ago. So that's where we'll be
Okay.
covering F2 and F3. It's only 150 subscribers so far, but we've got like 4 videos, I think. But I wanted a separate channel because obviously I didn't want F1 fans coming on and talking about Teo Porcher in the F2 and getting
Oh
confused
yeah.
as to why it's there. So yeah.
No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's something with F2 now a part of the broadcast feed in F1 TV. It's actually a nice thing. Even I started following pretty late, around 2017, 2018. So, just as an introduction, Jason, when did you actually start following Formula One?
So I started watching Formula One properly back in 2004. I did see a bit of it growing up because my granddad was a massive Damon Hill fan in the 90s. So I remember
Wow.
seeing that championship. But properly following it, 2004, which is why I think Alonso has a bit of a soft spot in my heart because it was very shortly after
Yeah.
that he won the championship. And of course, Schumacher as well. So yeah, been obsessed since 2004, but only started making content like a year ago because, well, COVID and there was nothing else to do and so on.
Oh, and which one was your first race?
First race that oh God, first race that I can remember, I can't remember exactly which it was. It was one in 2004. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember which race it was. The first one when I think about it, the first one that really stands out in my head though is was it Imola with Schumacher and Alonso was one of the first ones that I really remember standing out. Although if you're going back to my granddad, the first thing I remember is when Damon Hill won the championship. If I'm honest, that's
Ah,
my first memory of Formula One in
that's 96,
'96.
right?
Yeah, '96. Yeah,
Wow, 96. Suzuka 96, I think, when he won the championship.
I believe it was. Yeah, I just
Yeah,
remember there's just that iconic moment where he crosses
from
the
Murray
checkered
Walker.
flag and um, I've got a lump in my throat.
Yes. He was a legend. I mean, I don't think there are. Yeah, he did things his own way. Murray Walker.
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting story he has. There are quite a few. I think it was someone did an entire feature on him. How he went from being he didn't have a motorsport background. He was
Hmm.
more of a presenter that
Broadcasting, I think.
became a Formula One guy ultimately. But yeah,
Mhm.
very, very interesting story. And he has some great anecdotes of working with James Hunt and how he
Yeah,
was about to
and
punch him one time during
if
the
you want to see
commentary.
if you want to see something funny from him as well, Jeremy Clarkson once had him on a talk show, and he got him to do the commentary over a game of pool, and it was just hilarious.
Yeah, having having Murray Walker and James Clarkson in the same. I mean, that's that's going to be epic.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so
although
getting back to the main crux of the very first podcast. So for the very first podcast, the topic of discussion is going to be, well, we are predicting the 2024 F1 grid. Now, ideally, quite a few people have, I mean, quite a few influencers, and even I think a few websites have also predicted their what they expect the 24 grid to be. But yeah, we are 3 races into the season. I think we have a decent idea of how things are going to unravel this season. So that was arguably the reason why I asked you to hop on. Give your views on what you expect the entire 24 grid to be. So first of all, as basic, housekeeping things that the fans or the viewers, whoever
Hmm.
they are just keeping the things that they should know right now. There are 7 drivers that are out of contract at the end of the 2023 Formula One season, and they are Lewis Hamilton is out of his contract. We have Yuki Tsunoda, Nick De Vries,
Hmm.
both Haas drivers, Magnussen and Hulkenberg, and we have Logan Sargent. I think
Hmm.
I hope I haven't missed anyone.
I think that's everyone.
1 6. I probably have missed one. Let me just confirm. Guan Yu Joe. Joe Guan
Oh,
Yu.
of
I
course.
should I
Yeah,
should
yeah,
get this
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Joe Guan Yu is also, wow. I always miss him. I miss him in my features as well whenever I'm writing. No offense, Joe. But yeah, I do tend to miss him. I don't know why. So yeah. I hope no one clips this and makes it something different. I really hope they don't do that. I mean, that's always something that worries me. But yeah, so these are the 7 drivers that are out of the contract. Now, just as a teaser, Jason, do you think there is someone who is not in this list that might be moving teams?
There is probably two drivers on this list that
Hmm.
I haven't said they'll move because I don't think they will, but I have a feeling that there's a chance they could if things continue to go the way they are. But
Uh,
yeah,
okay.
let's talk about those when we get to the teams.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with Williams. We'll work our way up from that. First of all, let's talk about Williams. I'll let you take the stage first. What do you predict? What's going to be the lineup?
So Williams is one where I think honestly they'll probably stick with what they have at the moment because I think that Alex Albon realistically he's done more than a good enough job other than a silly
Yeah.
mistake at Australia. And I was trying to think about this because I think he deserves a seat at a better team, but I don't think there's anywhere else he can go, if that makes sense, at the moment, at the
Yeah.
very least. So I think they'll keep Alex, and I think that Logan Sargent, I mean, he's a rookie. I think they'll give him, a year or two. And also, if I'm honest, apart from again, like his teammate, a silly mistake at Australia. Other than that, he's actually been really impressive in terms
Yeah.
of pace. So I think Williams will stay the same, which is boring, and I'm sorry.
No, no, that's fine because no, that's fine because even I went with the same driver lineup. I don't think Alex Albon is going anywhere because I think he has a multi-year contract, and William is notorious for having quite a quite airtight contracts in their case. Russell already experienced that,
Yeah.
and Logan as well. I rate Logan very highly, to be honest, and out of the 3 rookies, I think him and Oscar they've done a decent job. They've
Hmm.
shown that they have the talent to stick it out in Formula One.
Yep.
I
Agreed.
had a question regarding Alex Albon. Tell me something. Do you think Red Bull should have just moved him back to AlphaTauri?
Would they move Alex Albon back to AlphaTauri?
Should they have? I don't think he's in
Oh,
the
should they
same.
have?
He belongs in the same umbrella anymore.
I think they probably should have, but it's probably for the best that they didn't because realistically, I think if they had have put him back in the AlphaTauri, he probably would have still been there pushing to get a Red Bull seat. And I don't think that was ever going to happen. So I
Yeah,
think, like
that's what I
Gasly,
was going to
they
come
kind of
to
had to
next
flee the nest.
because yeah, uh, because ultimately that's what I was going to come to next. Don't you think he's shown that he's a capable enough driver to be in Red Bull?
Yes, but it won't happen. I just don't think they'll take
Yeah,
another
I don't
risk on
get
him.
that.
I
Why?
think yeah. I just think Red Bull is that type of team. You get one chance, and if it doesn't work, you're gone. And that's that, you know.
To be honest, I think he'll
Um,
do a better job than Sergio right now because his qualifying pace is spectacular.
Why you gotta hurt me like that? You know I'm a Perez fan.
Oh shit! I apologize.
um, I think the thing is that at the end of the day, Red Bull don't need a better driver than Sergio Perez. You know, like I think until they are properly under pressure, they have
Yeah,
Max. You know, so I don't
they
know.
need a rear guard. They need someone to back him up. And just imagine if the grid is closer. If you have the top three, and now we have top four, all four teams within 2 to 3 tenths. Sergio will end up qualifying in P8 more often than not. Sorry again. Yeah,
He's better in
and
the race. It's okay.
hey, we- I don't have any Indian representation. I can shit on Mexico a bit.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Mm,
that's where I come up with it, because my main concern is, once what next after Sergio, and that's I don't think he sticks around till 25 with Red Bull.
yeah. I mean, but the thing is as well that if Red Bull continue the way they are, they're not going to be stuck for drivers because at the end of the day, they were at a they had a chance to get Lando Norris. Lando Norris turned it down. They could have taken Piastri, you know, like and given their success now, it's not like they'll
Hmm.
be stuck for a second driver if they want one. You more or less
Yeah.
anyone would
Yeah,
jump
but
into
who's
that
the
seat.
ideal guy?
So
I mean, who's basically a Sergio Perez but with better qualifying and less
probably
PR?
Daniel Ricciardo, who they've
He
already
has a
got in
lot of
third.
PR.
Maybe Daniel Ricciardo. Um,
Oh yeah,
I
Daniel.
don't. The thing is, I guess we'll talk about AlphaTauri soon. But the thing is, Yuki Tsunoda's doing a solid job. Maybe he just needed the time to grow.
Yeah.
So that's one. They've obviously got drivers like Lawson. They've got Iwasa in F2. Um,
Hmm.
you know, they've got drivers they could move up. It's not going to be Nick De Vries, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I think they've got
Yeah.
time. You
No,
know,
Nick De Vries is not. No, I don't think so.
no,
I mean, I
no.
had my doubts even before the season began. I said he was overrated. Wimbo didn't
Mhm.
like it much. But yeah. uh yeah, I don't think he'll get that. Anyhow, moving from we took a lot of time on Williams. I think we'll be here all day if we do that. Yeah, moving from Williams to Alpha Tauri. So okay, for this one I'll go first.
Mhm.
I think Yuki Tsunoda keeps his seat. He's taken over the role that Gasly used to play. He's extracting a lot out of that car. He's pretty good defensively. So I think he'll keep building on it. Finally grew up. And yeah, he's doing pretty good. Now coming to the second seat, I think Nick De Vries, he gets booted out at the end of the season. I hope he doesn't get booted out in the middle of the season, because Marco is already, he's tightening the noose. Like, okay, you need to
Yep.
start performing, buddy. But I think he might survive the season, but he won't be there next season. I think we might have an all Japanese driver lineup in Alpha Tauri next season. Ayumu Iwasa, he's been pretty good, and I think he's leading the F2 championship right now, isn't he?
Yep. He is. He's
Yeah,
leading it.
mostly. So that is what I feel. They won't have an issue, right, with an all Japanese Alpha Tauri lineup. Too
No,
much
and
Honda representation. Both
it
are
would
Honda
make it an
juniors,
easy sale
basically.
to Honda as well if they wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah. So yeah, so at least in my view, I think we'll have Yuki Tsunoda and Ayumu Iwasa at Alpha Tauri. What's your view?
Interesting. So I've also said that Yuki Tsunoda will stay. I think if you had have asked me a month ago or, 5, 6 weeks ago, I probably would have said Yuki was out the door. But I
Hmm.
think the new teammate, whatever it is, but he's driving spectacularly. Maybe ask me again in 6 months. But I think at the moment, Yuki stays. Um, Nick De Vries, though, I agree. He hasn't been he hasn't been brilliant, and his only task really, because the car is so terrible, was to beat Yuki Tsunoda, and he's not doing it.
Hmm.
So I think he's out because what's the point, like for Red Bull? But I actually went with Liam Lawson as
Hmm.
the replacement, um, just because
Yeah.
I think Lawson's kind of been held in the like the sidelines for a while now, and I think he's a solid driver. And I wonder, you know, I hadn't thought about Iwasa, but you're right. I think it would be a close call between the two. Um, but I reckon they'd probably pip Lawson for a year because they'd be like, he can come in for a year, and if it doesn't perform, Iwasa can come in afterwards.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but if Ivasa ends up winning the Formula 2 championship, I think in that case
true.
he'll get the jump. Lawson was
Yeah,
fifth, right? Last season.
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah, he is a good driver though, but they've talked up Lawson quite a lot,
Hmm. Yeah.
so we'll
I mean,
see.
yeah, Liam Lawson could still. He's impressive as well. Whatever I've seen, I mean, he's
Yeah.
impressive in spurts. Slightly inconsistent, but he can be impressive on his day.
Yeah, although if I could go back in time now, I probably would have put Iwasa on my list because I think you might be right. But anyway, I can't.
Yeah.
So
So yeah. Now, next we'll have next is after Alpha Tauri we have Haas. So you go first. What's your prediction?
for
Both are out
Haas,
of contract, by the way,
yeah,
which is surprising.
yeah, both. Well, Nico was just on a 1 year contract anyway, obviously to give him a chance and make sure he didn't crash the car repeatedly. Almost got a podium this weekend, so that was impressive. Um,
Yeah.
which always happens to Nico. I'm gonna go boring with this one. I think for what Haas has and what they need, I think it's the ideal lineup. Like Kevin Magnussen made that silly mistake, kind of tapping the wall, and it was a much bigger accident than they expected in Australia. But realistically, those are two safe pair of hands. I think that's what Haas needs right now, and I think I'm going to be boring and say they probably keep them for another year.
Okay. Okay. So here's my first surprise of this whole video. I think one driver that is going to be. I think both of them are gone after the end of the season.
Wow.
One driver will be Daniel Ricciardo. The second will be Valtteri Bottas.
Okay.
So the reason why, no,
Didn't
my
see that
logic
coming.
behind it is entirely because I think what we saw in Australia this season, I think that's what Daniel Ricciardo wanted to see at the end of the day. Look, Red Bull is up front. That's fine. Everyone knows that. But
Hmm.
after Red Bull, you have this whole cluster of teams that are there and thereabouts. The gaps have not increased. Rather, the field is getting compressed as the races have progressed. That is all he wants. If I think even in 2020, Renault was not that fast. I mean, it was good. It was, but many times he was able to, outperform the car, get the podiums and everything. He's basically looking for that opportunity and be the lead driver again. He wasn't able to do it in McLaren in the second season. And that's where I think Haas comes in. Gunther has left that door open. He's always been a bit like, okay, we'll have a chat. We'll keep these two drivers, but if Ricciardo comes knocking, he'll he'll just say, okay, whatever you want, come in.
Yep.
And that's where I think the problem with Ricciardo was last season that the way Haas faded at the end of midway through the season, he was a bit skeptical.
Hmm.
But the way they bounced back again, I think he'll be interested because I don't see any other avenues for him to come back. And after a year outside, he'll be itching to come back because he's not driving. I mean, how much PR activity can he do in the entire year? He needs to drive. So Haas is where I think he'll end up.
Okay.
And for Valtteri Bottas, I think it's more of a last resort for him. I'm a bit shocked at how he performed in Saudi and in Australia. The car, I mean, if you're getting out qualified this badly from by being Joe's teammate, then there's something going wrong. I mean, he's got his mullet. He's doing a lot. He's having fun. I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's in his Kimi Raikkonen phase, to be honest. The way Kimi was after he won the title, and it's affecting his performance. Now he has experience. He's over one lap. He's very good, and I think Haas will pick him up, because I think at the end of the year, Seidel is going to dispose of him, because the performances are not up to the mark, and Valtteri's his mind is somewhere else these days. So yeah, that's my pick. What's your take on this? Acha, okay, so you did tell me you're going to stick with the same thing.
Yeah, but I have to say I'm not very surprised by the Daniel Ricciardo pick because I had considered that, that maybe
Hmm.
he could just drop down. So that didn't really surprise me. The Valtteri Bottas one did. I was like, oh, I didn't even consider that that option. Um, I don't know. I think that realistically they probably keep Bottas around for a couple of years just until maybe 25 personally.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
hey, you're right. He hasn't been particularly impressive, but it just depends on how quickly they want to swap the Audi team in, if that makes sense.
They've started already, isn't it? I think Audi has now
Yeah.
25% stake.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they've started obviously the takeover, and next year they'll
Yeah.
revert back to just Sauber. As someone starts a massively loud truck outside my door, they'll start switching to Sauber next year and then working towards Audi.
Yeah.
I just mean I thought that they'd maybe keep
Hmm.
Bottas around as like a development driver for a couple of years and then, switch in someone like Norris in 25 or something like that. That was my kind of thinking on it.
Yeah,
But
that's
interesting,
right.
interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the thing is, with both drivers out of contract, I don't expect both of them to stay there. I don't. Magnussen has been exposed a bit, the way Hulkenberg is
Yeah.
out qualifying him. It's
Hmm.
mega. Even I'm surprised. I didn't expect the gap to be this much.
Yeah.
That's where I think, and it actually brings into context how bad Mick Schumacher was. And while I'm a Michael Schumacher fan, I mean, out and out Michael Schumacher fan, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I'm a Michael Schumacher fan. But yeah, I think he marginally outqualified him later in the season, and the way Nico has just blown Magnussen out of water, it's not looking good for Mick as well. I don't think the whole first three races have shown him in a good light in any which way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after Haas, we have Aston Martin. So Aston Martin has Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. By the way, did you see that clip of Lawrence Stroll trying to high five Lance in the middle at that red flag period in the race?
No.
I mean, that's the only time I've seen Lawrence smile in all these years. And he had this smile for his son.
No,
He's
I
like,
didn't see it.
high five, Lance. And Lance like, yeah, sure, dad. I just got, I just overshot a corner. I'm in the gravel. What are you doing?
What
And
are you high-fiving me for?
yeah, so so I mean, yeah, look, there's always going to be question marks on Lance on his performance, because I mean, let's he's there for because of his dad's money. There
Hmm.
are no two ways about it. But yeah, he's not going anywhere. And Stroll would be, and Lawrence would be bonkers to get rid of Alonso now.
Oh, yeah.
Alonso will kill him. Alonso will hunt him down and kill him if he even tries to think on those lines. He'll drive for him for free. That is
Yeah.
how desperate he is for a good car. Yeah, this lineup, I don't think I see much changing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Lance Stroll has a lifetime contract as Lawrence owns the team. So, he's there.
Have a
Basically,
dad like Lawrence Stroll. Buy his
yeah,
goddamn team for him.
I mean, listen, who wouldn't love a dad like Lawrence Stroll? Um,
Yeah,
like I think just at the end of the day, he could DNF every single race and he'd still have a seat next year. And honestly can't think of a time there's ever been a driver that has that security. But yeah, he's there for good. And you're right,
yeah.
Alonso. Let's
Was
be
there
honest,
anyone that came
Alonso not
close?
leaving that car. Who?
Was there anyone that came close to having this kind of security like Lance?
No, because we've got a lot of pay drivers like Latifi and stuff who've brought money in and sponsors.
Yeah,
Like,
but he was always. I mean,
yeah,
he still got booted out. Lance is not getting booted out.
look, even
I don't see that happening. Especially after watching that moment between the two, that father will do anything for his son.
yeah, this is the thing. Like, the only thing that comes close is title kids that bring in title sponsors, like Nikita Mazepin, Latifi
Hmm.
brought in Lavazza and stuff. But even
Yeah,
then, they don't have full security because the team can find money elsewhere. Whereas this is like his dad owns the team. Like, he's there for life. And I
yeah,
agree on Alonso as well. I think Alonso has finally gotten a good car. And I think if Aston Martin continue to provide a good car, anyone who challenges him for his contract, he's going to get into a cage fight and murder before he lets them have it. So I think
yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
Like, yeah, like Alonso's in that car until he's 50 now if they keep performing.
yeah. He's not going. He'll target Schumacher and Hamilton 7 world championships if he could. He's not going anywhere. That man
Exactly.
is hungry like anything. I actually have an anecdote of this thing. Apparently, so there are a couple of journos that work in the paddock that also are part of Sportskeeda. So the rumor has it that Alonso is not going to settle before he at least wins another championship. There there are these.
Uh,
Apparently, he released something, no, that he broke up with his girlfriend.
oh, really?
So yeah, being also covering the news on Sportskeeda website, I have to keep track of all these things as well.
Hmm.
So apparently he broke up, and I just had a chat with this friend. I hope I bring her to the podcast as well someday. So she said that Alonso is not settling down until he at least has another championship in his belt. He's so driven, so motivated that nothing comes before this, and he's
I
40.
I predicted at the end of last year, and it's the only prediction in my entire life that's ever seemed to come bloody true. And it was I predicted that Alonso and Aston would win a third title together in 2024. And when I put the video up, the amount of comments, even from me in the video, saying this is ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, and here we are, where it's like, oh, this could actually happen now. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
so
it was a wild prediction. Even I made a prediction that he might win a race this season. Now this that seems realistic, but when I made this prediction, it was a pre-season podcast that I did with Wimbo. I, it was just a shot in the dark that okay, maybe it might work. This that shit
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
He's going to win a
it's
race this season. I
insane,
mean, I don't doubt it. He's
insane.
winning a race this season for sure. There is going to be a race
Oh,
where
100%.
reliability issue something will happen. He is winning a
Yeah,
race,
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
moving from Aston Martin, now Alfa Romeo dash Sauber. What do you predict?
Mhm.
What's going to be the driver lineup there?
So I think, unlike yourself, obviously, I think they're going to keep Valtteri Bottas for next year.
Okay.
Um, I initially, I initially was going to say that Lando Norris would jump over there with Seidel and start working towards
Hmm.
Audi, but I think Lando Norris. Anyway, we'll talk about Lando in a while. But I think Joe Guan Yu gives way for Teo Porcher.
Hmm.
He's their academy driver. He's doing incredibly well in F2. And at the end of the day, they brought Joe in because he added $30 million to the pot last year. They don't need
The year
that 30.
before that, right?
The year was it the year
Or
before that?
no, no, right, right. Last year only. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, yeah, yeah. But they brought him in for 30. Like he added $30 million to the pot in Sauber. Sauber don't need that money anymore. So
Yeah.
why not bring in a new rookie that they can train up, and that way if they don't have another driver for the 2026 kickoff, they've at least given a few good seasons to a solid F2 driver. I think it makes
Porsche
more
might
sense.
win the F2 championship this season. There is a very high possibility.
Yep, exactly. So,
Yeah.
and even if he doesn't, I think he's proven he can drive.
Enough.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
True. Okay. So in my case, yeah, I think I 50% I think both of us agree. I agree that Teo Poche will be a part of Saber next season.
Hmm.
We can't call it Alfa Romeo anymore, I think. We don't know what we'll call it next season as well, because Audi will have, I
It's
think it will be a
50,
50% stake next season, but I don't think they'll have the naming rights because Ferrari engine as well. It can't be Audi Sauber Ferrari
no, it's going to
for
just be
obvious
Sauber
reasons.
next year. From everything I've heard, it'll just be Sauber next year because Alfa Romeo obviously ends this year. Sauber it'll still be 50% Sauber, 50%, well, 25 Sauber, 25 Neil Rousing, and 50% Audi. But I don't think they're
Hmm.
going to brand it Audi until 2026 is the plan.
Yeah. So, and there is one, arguably, one thing that might go against Teo. Teo was brought up by Fred Vasseur. He's not a he's not basically a Saber protege. He's a Vasseur, Fred Vasseur's
Hmm.
guy.
Yeah,
ART is, it
yeah.
used to be Vasseur's team. Is it still Vasseur's team?
I think it's still his team, right? He still owns it, as far as I know.
Todd left, no? I think
Yeah,
Nicholas Todd left.
I believe so. I need to check, but I think Vasseur still owns part of it, right? At the very
I
least.
think so. I think so.
Yeah,
So
I'd
yeah,
need to check.
that guy. Ultimately, it was Teo Poche being French, Vasseur being French. So there was a connection there. I don't
Mhm.
know how
The
much of
French
it
connection.
is there and how much obliged Saber feels to, have have him promoted, because this will be his third season, and if somewhere he slips up, or because even this season he's making far too many mistakes for his liking, and if he
True.
slips up, then you might see something else. But I'm backing him. He's talented. He almost beat Piastri as well
Mhm.
in F3.
Yeah.
So there's a high likelihood that I think Poche will be in that seat. Now the second guy, I think it will be Nico Hulkenberg. I think he
Okay.
moves from I think he moves from Haas to Saber, basically because they have this link since Le Mans, right? Porsche, I think Hulkenberg won with Porsche, right, in Le Mans.
I
So
believe so.
Seidel has that link with him since then, and
Mhm.
they wanted a German driver as well. They wanted some German representation. Now the way Hulkenberg has blown Magnussen out of water, I think Mick's chance of being a future Audi driver is, it's kind of out of the window if we take the first performance into consideration. So
Mhm.
yeah, if they are going to go with one driver and someone who's doing a decent job in Haas, he's done decently well. I think they will go with Hulkenberg to have some German representation. Plus, he's 35. If I think he's 35, only 35 or 36, something like that. If
Yeah.
Lewis is
Yeah. Yeah.
able to stay in the team at 38, then I mean he can do a decent job at 35, and if he sticks around, is able to show something, maybe they can have a big star like Norris, maybe even Leclerc in the future in the next 2 years. But yeah, for
Mhm.
now, and maybe even Piastri's contract is, I think it's 1 year plus extension. If he
Yeah.
shows something out of the blue, maybe Seidel can he can snatch him away from McLaren as well, just like he did from Alpine. Who knows? But yeah, that they are the possible options in the future, unless Teo Pocher turns out to be something too good, which we don't know. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's the lineup that I'm kind of zeroing in on for Saber. Next year it will be Hulkenberg and Teo Pocher for now.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
Interesting.
yeah, mostly that will be where we end up with them. Now McLaren. I think for McLaren, I've again probably a boring pick because I don't think they are changing either of the two drivers, and I don't think either of the two drivers have an option to go anywhere else. Piastri will be in his second year, and he's not. I think he'll stay. There's no point of moving right now. Norris, I think Zach Brown's comments in Australia, they bummed me out a bit. Apparently, he has no exit clause in his contract, and he's stuck with McLaren till 25. I don't know how legit that is, but he sounded very confident.
Yeah. I don't know. Contracts are, the old saying, contracts are like hearts. They're made to be broken.
Yeah, but Zach is
There's
very good
all,
at this thing, though.
yeah, but Look, at the end of the day, there's even if there's no performance clause, at the end of the day, a contract always just has a dollar figure on it. So if someone wanted Lando big enough, they would just
Hmm.
take him. Like for example, if Red Bull turned around tomorrow and said we want Lando Norris, and they said, well, it's a $50 million exit clause, they'll just be like, right, where do I send the check? You know what I mean? Like there's no issue there,
Yeah.
because the driver is not in the cost cap, so they can pay whatever they want. So I don't think that's a huge issue for the big companies. But I do agree that he is staying there, and so is Oscar. Um, I think Oscar.
Yeah.
I think Oscar is doing a good enough job. He's close to Lando. That's all they wanted. So he's doing, he's doing a
Plus,
decent job.
he's a rookie.
And to be honest,
He'll get another year to just prove himself.
yeah, I think so. And I think Lando Norris. I genuinely was going to say Lando Norris goes to Sauber, but I think the problem for Norris is even if he could leave, like unless he goes to Red Bull, and he that's the only option that wins him a title. Anywhere else is kind of like, well, what's the point? Because I'd be
Until
lucky to win a
26, I
race.
don't think, other than Red Bull, there is a realistic option.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
but yeah, I don't think there is.
and is he going to beat Max Verstappen at his own team? Like does he want to even be in that situation? Like, what's the point? So, yeah, I think Lando Norris probably sticks around until 25, but it depends
Yeah.
on how poorly the rest of the year goes. So this could be a really bad prediction later, because I've already talked about him leaving this year, but the more I think about it, the more I think he'll probably stick it out for one more year.
Yeah. I think he sticks around for at least one more year.
Mhm.
Maybe sees a few options open up next season, because hopefully the whole development restriction thing, it brings the field closer.
Yeah.
Maybe Mercedes and I don't know, Ferrari. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe there might be a few options opening up next season. Nothing for now.
Yeah.
Even though he wants to leave, I think he you can tell that he's starting to lose patience now.
Yeah.
His post race interviews are very labored. It's like, yeah, fuck it, just let's get this over with. I am stuck with a shitty car, and there's hardly any upside. So I mean, since 2021, where he truly shined, because even the car was capable enough to of challenging for podium sometimes, it's
Yeah.
been a bit of a downhill ride for McLaren. And you can see it on his face. It's starting to wear on him. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
there's going to be much change, at least for now, at
Not for
McLaren.
24, I don't think. No.
Now, moving to Alpine. What's your view?
Well, this is again, I'm going boring, but this could turn around very quickly, because the two drivers could end up crashing a lot. But I'm going to say they'll
They
stay with the
already did.
same.
They've
Yeah, I
totaled
know.
two
Yeah,
cars already.
I'm going to say
The
they'll
cars are
stay.
gone, by the way. They are total write-offs.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, yeah, this could be very bad. But I think the thing is, they've hedged their bets on Esteban Ocon right till 25. Is it the end of 24?
They keep him as a support driver. They don't keep him as a lead driver. I mean, whatever I've heard from Laurent Rossi, he's their second driver, French representation, who will do a decent job. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, but then Pierre Gasly is already kind of showing him up a little bit so far. Pierre's been doing a spectacular job for the first three races. So, like, the thing is, I just don't know who they replace Ocon with, because at the end of the day, I think the problem is if they want to get rid of Ocon or they want to get rid of Gasly this season, who the hell is going to drive for them unless they get an F2 driver? Because any other F1 driver in their right mind, apart from maybe Daniel Ricciardo, would take a chance, because they've seen Piastri turn it down, they've seen Alonso jump. If they then
Yeah,
turned down Daniel Ricciardo, went with Pierre Gasly, and then try and throw out Ocon, I think other drivers are going to be like, yeah, this is a poor career decision. I'm not doing this. So I
yeah.
think they're kind of stuck with those two drivers for the next year anyway.
Hmm. I think yeah, I find it hard to understand why Alpine is such a hard team to drive for. Apparently, Ricciardo left, Alonso left. I don't and and if you look at it since 2021. The car has been improving. I mean, slowly. They've said this goddamn how many years? How many 5-year project or something like that?
This is their second
They've
5-year
had
plan.
this thing in
This
place
is
and they are slowly improving.
yeah,
Uh,
but it's their second 5-year plan.
yeah. I mean, they got rid of Prost. They got rid of Cyril.
Yeah.
In the entire the first thing. Now in the second part they have with Otmar. Look, I have my doubts when it comes to Otmar because I think he's a great midfield team leader. The job he did with Force India was amazing. I don't know if he can take the team to the championship.
It
I don't
also
I don't know. He has this
like
ability
Lauren.
to maximize small budgets. How will he do with a
Yeah.
mega budget? How will he take that whole thing to the next level where it matches a top team in every look? Having a fast car is one thing. You should be operationally pretty impeccable if you're going to beat Red Bull. You can't have a car. First of all, Red Bull has Adrian Newey, so he's always going to have a good car.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to beat Red Bull, you need to be perfect in every goddamn manner. That is how you're going to beat Red Bull. And can Otmar do that? I don't know.
The problem I have is that Otmar obviously was a really good operator at Force India, really, really good. But like you said, there's a big difference between that type of team and a top team. And
Yeah,
my concern about Otmar is that Aston Martin basically made the decision that we want to be a top team and he's not the right person. And Alpine then went, we want to be a top team and he's the right person. And which of those two teams has made a jump? So
obviously, yeah.
like obviously that's just an outside perspective and it could be really wrong. Maybe we're missing a load of details, but as just
Probably,
a
yes.
as just a general conclusion, it's like if one team says we want to be a top team and get rid of this guy because they don't think he can get them there, then what makes you think the second team that, let's be honest here, has worse leadership, worse investment, like how is he going to do it for them? I
Yeah.
don't know. I just Alpine's just like, even if I
Confusing.
think back to that
It's a
team
works
in the
team, by the way.
2000s,
And everyone forgets that.
yeah, even think back to that team in the 2000s. The reason they won those championships was twofold. One, they had Alonso, who was incredible, and two, they had Flavio, who was willing to do literally anything to win. So, like,
Yeah, Singapore
and
2008
I
is
mean
back.
literally, yes, that's why I said literally anything to win, because it's in the news now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we will actually cover this thing in that the whole controversy podcast.
Definitely,
We'll
yeah,
cover it
yeah.
in that one. The Singapore Grand Prix. Was Alonso, did Alonso know that what was going to happen? Why he was starting on
Uh, Probably, and he
such
probably
a
wouldn't.
stupid strategy? If you look at it,
Yeah,
that is going to be
maybe.
very interesting
Alonso knows everything that's going on, even during Spygate. But let's save all this for the
for that
controversies
one.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is going to be a fun one. That
Yes,
one is going
definitely.
to be a lot of fun. It's going to piss off a lot of people as well, but it's going to be
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
one
Yeah,
hundred
by the
percent.
way, for me as well, in at Alpine I don't see any change.
Okay.
The whole talk about friction between these two, that will be there, it will be there. I mean, it's okay, but apparently Otmar has experience in handling this. He's been he's been Ocon's, I think, team principal at Force India as well, so he knows how to handle him. Until it gets way out of hand, it will be okay. I don't see
Yeah,
much
yeah.
happening.
He's handled Ocon and Perez, so how hard can it be?
Yeah, that is also an interesting one. Maybe someday we'll talk about that as well. Is Esteban
Yeah,
Ocon a bad
definitely.
teammate? A lot of people are going to say yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from Alpine, now let's move to Mercedes. Honestly, I want you to go first on this one.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
It is Mercedes, isn't it? Yeah. So they keep George Russell, obviously, because George Russell is,
I
Hamilton
I I,
2
I loved
2.0.
that pause, by the way. I just
Yeah.
loved that pause. My prediction
Yes.
changes after every race. Whether what's going to happen in Mercedes after every race, I think, okay, maybe this thing is going to happen. Okay, maybe this thing is going to happen. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you take the floor first.
So I think they keep George Russell. George Russell's their future. He's George Russell 2.0, or he's Lewis Hamilton 2.0 for that team.
Yeah,
And to be honest, although everything fell apart for him in Australia, Australia was one of the times where I looked at George's race and went, that guy is going to be a multiple world champion. Because even just he made the call to come into the pits. Unfortunately, the red flag came out, but his lunge at the start on, off the line, just everything was like,
stunning,
this, this
stunning.
guy's this guy's a next level future world champion. I think his teammate though won't be Lewis Hamilton, and this is my big surprise. I have a feeling that Lewis Hamilton could bow out halfway through the season. Not leave halfway through the season, not leave,
Okay,
but basically like decide that he's leaving halfway through the season. And this is obviously a massive amount of speculation, but here my reasoning is, right. If I was Lewis Hamilton, what's going to happen is obviously he's on a high after this weekend, but look what he looked like in the last two races, right? He just didn't look happy. On top of that, they're going to bring in a new package for Imola, and realistically, the new package probably won't work out of the box. So there's going to be some things that'll have to change. So they'll either work out of the box at a couple of races, and then they'll have a couple of races of disappointment, and he's going to see the Red Bulls and even Aston maybe getting further ahead, right? So he's
hmm.
going to say to himself, right, I can't win a championship probably until 2026. Let's be realistic. So in his head, then he looks at it and says, well, okay, I'm then guessing that this team will get it right for 2026. And even if they get it right, I'm then fighting a George Russell who's had 3 years to bet himself in, which
Yeah,
means that we have to be a team playing, like proper team playing operation. And I don't think if George Russell's in a title fight, he's going to be a team player any more than Lewis Hamilton would be
he's
in that
not
sort of
anymore.
situation. We saw with
Anyways,
Ross.
even this season, he was a bit pissed the way Lewis tried to overtake him at this on the first or second lap,
Yeah.
something like that.
These and look, anyone who complains about that just needs to shut up. These are A player competitive drivers. If they're not complaining, then they don't deserve the seat. Like they should be arguing for these positions.
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
I think Lewis maybe sees the writing on the wall. He keeps saying he wants to fight for his eighth. I hate to I hate to say it, Hamilton fans, but look, he is the most successful driver in F1 history. That should be
Yeah,
enough. The eighth title, I'm sorry, but I just can't see it coming. I've watched Formula One for long enough to know that a driver has his kind of run of success, and then it almost never comes back. And I'm trying to think of a time, even in F1 history, that it's come back, and it never has. Like, the only time when it happened is when you had Prost and Senna on and off. But that wasn't like Prost went on a run of 5 championships and then came back. It was like one, that kind of
yeah.
like back and forth. Like
Niki
Vettel,
Lauda, by
four
the way.
championships gone. Alonso's still fighting for a championship. You know what I mean? So like,
Alonso is a freak. He's a total
yeah,
freak.
yeah.
If he
I
had a
just,
bit, if he was a people's person a bit, no, he would have a lot. He would have a few more titles. But the man loves to burn bridges. He just loves to burn
yeah.
bridges.
He also just very unlucky. He was 4 points away from 4 titles, something like that. So like he's just
Yeah,
unlucky, you know.
2007,
Yeah,
11. No, no, 2007, 10, and
10.
12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So just unlucky. But this is the thing. So I think if unless the package that Mercedes show up with is much closer to Red Bull and he can actually sniff, like, obviously he's not going to sniff a title this year, but if he can kind of go, there's a chance I'll get it next year, then he'll sign one more contract. And I don't think that Mercedes is being exactly accurate. I think he's waiting for the upgrade package before
Hmm.
signing his new contract. And
Hmm.
that's why I could see him kind of pushing it and then going, yeah, I'm going to bow out because I can't see him going anywhere else. So I'm going to replace him. And this is where I think you're going to be even more surprised. I'm going to replace him with Mick Schumacher. I think they give Mick Schumacher a year. And I think it's because,
What?
yep. And I think it's because, one, I think Mick Schumacher does have some talent, but I think Haas managed it poorly. And two, they don't need another Hamilton. They need another Bottas. And I think Toto could manage a Schumacher into a Bottas, if that makes sense. Or, so I
Wow,
think they give
you,
Schumacher a
you,
year.
you know,
Also,
in
he's
a
a
single
German
statement,
driver.
you've
It's a Mercedes brand.
thrown Bottas under the bus.
I've just
Bottas had
upset two
multiple
fan bases.
podiums before he sniffed a Mercedes drive.
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean,
Listen,
that's a bold,
if you want,
bold
you can just
prediction.
clip that whole rant out.
Wow.
Yeah, if you
Look, it
want, you
might
can.
happen. By the way,
If
it might happen. Even I'm not counting it out.
it won't, but I had to have one bold prediction. So if you want, you can clip that out, put it on Twitter, and you'll probably, that'll be my YouTube channel gone.
Yeah. You don't want me to put any anti Hamilton stuff on my Twitter, trust me. The whole cult alleged they raid my account whenever I post anything that is even remotely critical. I wrote a tweet that Vettel, that in 2018 no driver was going to win a title in that Ferrari,
Yeah.
and it infuriated them. They said Hamilton was going to win, and they went, and I think 500 or 600,000 impressions, views, whatever, on that tweet. and and after a while I had muted, and I came back a few days later to see what was going on, and there were tons of quote tweets, retweets, comments, abuses, a lot of them, and everyone
Yeah.
thinks it's probably a abuse to call me the casual fan. And I just laugh it off. But yeah, they are very sensitive in in that sense.
Yeah. My Twitter literally in my bio just says, if my views offend you, don't read them, obviously. So,
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
like
it's good. It's a good thing. It's a waste of time, and
I
I try to keep a tab on it. But I I am a bit aggressive in nature. Probably that's why I end up retaliating a lot.
at the
I
end of
don't
the
like
day, for
disrespect. If
me,
someone
right,
comes up with a snide remark, he
like
gets it back.
yeah, at the end of the day, in a lot of my videos, I'll praise like Max Verstappen when I think he's done an incredible job at something, or I'll talk about how good of a driver he is. He's a generational talent. And then I
Hmm.
get people in the comments calling me a Max fanboy and I'm an idiot and all this
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
And then when I do the same and I
that's the
go,
funny thing, you
Hamilton
know.
is,
I mean,
if I
you
do
know
the
what?
same though about Hamilton, I then
Hmm.
get comments saying I'm a Hamilton fanboy. And it's like, no, I'm just appreciating and respecting all the drivers. That's
Yeah,
it, you know?
I mean, I what I get is now, because I also write for Sportskeda, so when I do these driver ratings or all these things, they are posted on their Facebook page. At that particular section, or even on Instagram, I tend to get, you are a, no, they call me a British journalist because apparently I have British bias. I mean, I I can't stop laughing on that. And then when I move to Twitter, I'm a Max Verstappen fan. So I tend to
Mhm.
do this whenever someone abuses that. Okay, you're a Max Verstappen fan, you're a Lewis Hamilton hater. I've started posting screenshots of me being called a
Yeah.
British journal from,
Yeah.
yeah, from Facebook to Twitter, and they're like,
I
no, I don't believe it. That might be a one-off comment. And I get, dude, you've made up your mind. I'm not going to waste my time on this. Keep it
it's
whatever you want.
literally these people have made up their mind before even commenting, so it's a waste of time replying. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've gotten a shit like literally. It's so funny because as well, I've had my own subscribers like reply and be like, "This guy's a Red Bull fan. You're a moron." When I've been called like a Hamilton fan just because I've said something nice about Hamilton,
Yeah.
because I genuinely most of the time I'm like, you know, genuinely think he's one of the best drivers in history, and
Oh
obviously
yeah, for sure.
statistically he is like. But
Yeah,
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 when
for sure.
I remember the only one I replied to was someone was like, the level of British bias here is ridiculous. I just replied with, please go read the 800 years of Irish history under British colonialism, and before saying this
Oh
retarded
god.
shit. Like,
Look, the thing is, most of the people don't even know. They don't know about most of the history. I mean, to be honest, the people on F1
ah,
Twitter, I don't think they know anything other than the kind of ridiculous trend that goes around these days. They
Yeah.
are basically very limited on that front. They don't read. They don't read, to be bluntly honest. They are just they read the headline, they get outraged, and they go ahead.
Yeah.
I've
I
seen. I mean, yeah.
I know this
Anyways,
is
it's a
I
touchy subject for me as
I
well.
know I know this isn't F1 related, but the last thing I'll say on it is kind of funny as well because a lot of people just when they hear Irish they just assume British because Northern Ireland is still part of
Yeah.
England, so you know, or part of the UK. So like
Hmm.
all the time that happens. But I do find it really funny that when I think back to my history in school, we literally learned like my mother's English, right? My dad's Irish, and he like
Yeah.
brought us. He was like, "No, we're staying in Ireland. Like we're not moving to the UK because he. It's really funny. He's married to a British woman, but he hates the British. Right? How it works, I don't know. But in our school, we learned all about English colonialism and how they took over like India, you know, like Hong Kong, all these different places, and all the
Hmm.
horrible things they did throughout history. And
Yeah.
in my mother's school, she knows nothing about it. They didn't teach any
That's
of it.
the
And I'm like,
thing.
that's so funny how they
It's
just
almost it's
blank.
almost as if they are oblivious to the. I mean, should we get into it? We are going to bore away a few
Probably
fans.
not. Probably not.
Whoever sticks around this long.
Yeah.
because
Maybe
because
let's talk about.
I can just get into it and talk about history because I'm a bit of a nerd on that front, but I don't think people will be interested to know that. Let's
No,
get back. Let's get the train back on track. Yeah. So in your view, it's Jesus. How long did we go on that? I think we went on a tangent
a
for a
few
10 to
minutes.
15 minutes for
It's
Lewis
okay.
Hamilton. I mean, but that's what Lewis does. I mean, Lewis is the kind of. I mean, I honestly, while you're predicting that he will retire, I hope he doesn't, because the kind
No.
of content he brings and the kind of engagement he brings, no other driver does. That hurts. That would
True.
hurt my wallet a bit if he does leave. So I hope he doesn't. That is one thing. Yeah. Anyhow.
Because you're a British journalist.
Oh God.
So are you? So you think Lewis is staying? Then I'm guessing.
No, no. I don't. I don't think he retires. I'll get to
Okay.
it. In my view, the next season driver lineup for Mercedes is going to be George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Now, I'm not going to. Probably, I should. I think let's just combine both Ferrari and Mercedes driver lineups in this case, because, in my view, what is going to happen is, I think I agree with one thing from your side. Lewis knows that the writing is on the wall at Mercedes because Russell is improving, and he's smart enough to know that a young 25-year-old Charger and him at 38, 39, even if he is able to perform, even if he's able to, you know, be at the top of his game, you'll have to give some edge to Russell because he'll improve as time goes on.
Yeah.
Plus, Mercedes will also hedge its bets on the future. Look, Lewis has made it clear, eighth title and I'm gone.
Hmm.
So if that is the kind of narrative he wants to go ahead with, then why is Mercedes going to why is Mercedes going to invest in Lewis when he's leaving in a year, while there is Russell with whom they can build another dynasty? That is one thing. Second thing, that I don't think it caught much eye, but apparently Toto Wolff and Mercedes are not too happy with Lewis's comments in the first two races. He's come out
Yeah.
and he's come out and said that if Lewis wants to leave, he can leave. Basically, it was roughly on those lines. Secondly, Toto, if you heard the team radio at the end of the race, Toto wasn't ecstatic when Lewis got the P2.
Hmm.
He wasn't, and I was surprised because I've seen the same reaction when Bottas used to win. Lewis would come second or would not have a good result. That was a big surprise for me. Then apparently there are rumors that the Mercedes team was not at the podium ceremony or something like this.
Hmm.
Plus the fact that Lewis basically charges $1 million per week for his services, and then you have a driver that is producing the same performance or maybe even better at, I think, 18th. I think it's 18 times less that Russell gets paid when it is compared to
Hmm.
Lewis. Something like this. I forgot the number, or 8 times
Yeah.
less. Something
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you have this kind of disparity, the balance sheet doesn't add up,
No.
and that's where I think. Yeah, sure, go ahead. So that's where I think it ultimately, the question will be, both parties are not entirely happy with each other. Now, Mercedes, I do feel Mercedes is starting to improve. I don't know what how it ultimately pans out this season, but what Lewis will be looking at is, look, is 38. Arguably, if Mercedes has a championship winning car, Russell is winning. Now, this is going to infuriate a lot of Lewis fans. I know, but I think Russell is winning. At that point in time, what he's going to try to do is he's going to do what would be a second roll of the dice. He did it when he moved from McLaren to Mercedes. Not many people remember that even at that point in time, he was a bit pissed that Button was matching him and sometimes showing him up.
Hmm.
Everyone remembers what happened at Spa when he
Yeah.
showed posted the goddamn telemetry on Twitter. He doesn't like being beaten by a teammate, and the challenge was there. So at that
Yeah.
point, he moved from McLaren to Mercedes. I think this time around, he's going to make a move from Mercedes to Ferrari.
Right. Okay.
And at the same time, I think he'll come with the caveat that I want to perform a switch with Charles Leclerc, because he does not want to move from a team where there is George Russell to a move from where to a team where there is Charles Leclerc, because it's basically the same challenge, probably worse because Charles is already bedded in Ferrari.
Yeah.
That is the switch that is going to happen, and Ferrari will take him in a heartbeat. I don't think there's any team on the grid that will not take Lewis. If Lewis comes knocking, they will take. Other than Red Bull, Red Bull is never taking him. But other than that, every other team is going to be ecstatic to pick up Lewis. So that's the switch that I think is going to happen. I think Charles Leclerc and George Russell will be teammates at Mercedes, because again, Charles is pissed off at Ferrari. He d-
Yep.
he's angry, he's frustrated, and more or less he sees the team regressing. He's not
Hmm.
really thinking on those lines. What Lewis is probably looking at is, look, Lewis sees Fernando as an inspiration because Fernando hasn't really lost much of his speed at 41. He's not in his prime.
Yeah.
Let's not mistake ourselves on that. His qualifying speed is not there. But somewhere he sees that he can probably do another long term project with Ferrari, and maybe even if he gets one title, he betters Michael Schumacher, and he also, in a way, emulates what Schumacher did. Schumacher won a title with Ferrari after around a 20-year barren period for the team. If Lewis is able to do the same thing with around, I think they've not won a title since 16 years. If it does the same thing, he's probably
Yeah.
aiming to be the undisputed GOAT. So that will be the entire logic behind it. It's a
Well,
fantasy world, but if it
if
works, I mean, I'll be more than happy.
yeah, and I was going to say as well, if anyone thought that talking about the history of British colonialism was depressing, we're now talking about Ferrari, and I think that's equally depressing at this stage.
Oh, God.
Um,
Yeah.
that's an interesting.
Oh,
See,
God.
I've got Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz to stay at Ferrari,
Hmm.
but funny enough, when I did think about what were Charles Leclerc's options, it was either take Lewis's seat or take Perez's seat, and I didn't see either of those actually panning out. But the
Hmm.
way you're talking about it, it could work in terms of just a straight swap. The reason I wouldn't see
Yeah.
Lewis going there is just I think Lewis likes his kind of he likes to be able to push for his own causes. He likes all that side of things. He has that kind of life outside of Formula One, and I
Yeah.
think Ferrari is very restrictive in like no, the team comes first,
Team
and I
comes
don't
first.
know if that would work with him.
Yeah.
But in saying that, given how poorly Ferrari are performing at the moment, they
Yeah.
may look the other way to get Lewis in because of the marketing, simply the marketing value of it. It's a huge,
No
huge
one
win.
comes close. No one
Yeah,
comes
no.
close to Lewis. He's the, I think it was Senna who was a superstar. Then it was Michael. Then it
Hmm.
is Lewis. No one
Yeah,
has come close to that kind of fame and global outreach. Spectacular. I mean,
no.
look at his numbers. I mean, look at his followers on Twitter or Instagram. They are like twice the second guy, and crazy following, crazy. The
Yeah,
man transcends. I mean, he broke the glass ceiling. Let's be very honest. A black driver getting into Formula One and being as dominant as he is, and his debut season is arguably the best ever. The
incredible,
man, he deserves
incredible.
his flowers, whatever he gets.
Oh, like, listen, at the end of the day, even if he walked away tomorrow, he would still be remembered as the greatest driver in F1 history. Like, I mean, at the even like he's
Mhm.
tied on titles with Schumacher, but he's not tied on wins. Like he's ahead in wins, poles,
Far ahead.
podiums,
I think 12
everything.
or 15 wins ahead,
So
something like that.
this this is my thinking is like, you know, I think he didn't really talk much about the eight titles before what happened in 21, and I think since then it's become like a thing that he clearly wants to kind of right that ship.
Yeah,
But I think at some point that's going to wear off, and that's why I think he'll kind of start going, oh, screw it, like I'll just walk away. But you're right. As for Ferrari, I think they stick with the same lineup, and I say that in a kind of a depressing tone because that's really depressing for Charles Leclerc because I don't know
yeah,
if they'll get any better. But I also just don't know where Charles Leclerc goes until until 25, say. So
yeah.
because I
Yeah,
can't see,
look, Red Bull is fixed.
yeah,
Max is not going to have
and
any compete. I don't think it makes sense as well to
I
put another alpha in the same team.
I think that Max probably, likely in his long contract extension to 2028, probably has a first right of like refusal on teammates. I would
Yeah,
be surprised if, because and if they turn around and said we
for
want to
sure.
hire Max or Charles or we want to hire Lando, that
Hmm.
Max has to okay at first. And I think if they say we're going to hire Charles, I think Max says no, no way. Like this is my team, basically. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for Charles in a way. I just like to point out on Twitter, I don't feel sorry for Charles. He's a multimillionaire driving in his favorite sport. So can we stop feeling sorry for these people? But I do feel bad for him that he doesn't seem to have a place to go.
I
You
mean,
know.
yeah. I mean, people living in Monaco, it's hard to feel sorry for them, right? People living in tax havens, basically.
No, but it's like not to stick on Lewis too much here because I know we have, but I think I can understand why like Lewis was hard done by with what happened in 2021, that
Yeah.
call by, by Massey and everything. But it is funny that people are arguing for Lewis as if they're arguing for someone who's gone through political persecution. Like this is, we just need to remember that at the end of the day, this still is a multi-millionaire earning 50 million a year who flew away from that on a private jet and still gets to drive in the coolest sport in the world. Like, let's not pretend these people are, you know, like charity cases by any means. It is a sport at the end of the day.
I
So
mean,
people
even
need
if
to calm
we
down.
talk about, even in terms of drivers, the top drivers that have ever driven for any team, Lewis hasn't driven in a team, in a midfield team ever in his career.
Yeah.
I other than Fangio, I don't think I can name any driver that has that kind of a record that he's never driven for a midfield team ever in his entire career.
Yep.
Can
So
I mean no one.
no,
Michael did the first
most
year I think
drivers
Benetton
started
was
in
a
a midfield
midfield.
team.
Yeah, midfield or back markers.
Yeah.
Alonso
Yeah.
started in a Minardi.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get more back marker than that.
So
I mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, when you talk about it and when you think on the lines of the kind of I don't know if it is even appropriate to use the word privilege, but the kind of cars that Lewis has had in his career, no other driver has had. It's unprecedented in every which way. There is no driver that has that kind of
Yeah.
17
And
years now. 17,
and
16,
also just to
2007 to
clarify,
16, 17 years. Yeah.
as well for anyone who kicks off on Twitter at me saying this as well. My point is not that they haven't earned it because Lewis earned it. He worked really hard to get where
Oh,
he
yeah.
has. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people who are acting like losing a world championship for Lewis is akin to like the way they talk about it is like it's, it's non it's I'm trying to think of something, but it's like, it's like a political asylum or something, or like someone's been, you know I can't even think, but they're akinning it to like these horrible situations, and it's like, look, he was hard done by, but he still flew away from that on a private jet. So can we stop
Yeah.
feeling sorry for these people? It's not like
I
it's
mean,
a
yeah, that's
sport,
the whole thing.
you know. It,
I mean, it's a robbery. There is no doubt about it that it's a robbery. But come on. I mean, and the thing is, you see the hypocrisy of these people when you mention what happened with Felipe Massa in 2008. To me, that
Mhm.
is also a robbery.
Yeah,
We we
100%.
ha- we have we have a, pardon the words, we have a fucking fixed race deciding a world championship. What the fuck are we doing here? And
Yeah,
th- and I mean, the same people that argue, okay, 80 2021 was this or that, they'll come up with the same bullshit logic that okay, this was fine, it's too late. Dude, you're acting like a goddamn hypocrite. And there are people with 30 to 40,000 Twitter followers who will act like 8021 was the black mark in Formula 1 history. But apparently it's fine that what happened with Felipe Massa in 2008. Dude,
yeah,
both suck. That's the bottom line. Both of them suck. Both of them are horrible, and both of them showed the ugly side of Formula 1. And
yeah.
that is there. We accept it and we move on because
There is
that
like,
that is it. You can't really do much about it.
and this, like, obviously I don't want to stick with this too long because we still have more teams to talk about, but
Yeah.
there is just that
20
it
25
just
minutes we've
seems
gone on
silly to
this.
me.
That's what Lewis does.
Yeah.
So much fucking content on the
But
same goddamn guy.
it just seems silly to me though, that the way people talk about it, and now they're going to bring it up with the Massa thing, for example, right? And they'll argue about this all day, and they'll talk about how it's a, it's a terrible thing and all these horrible things. But I'm like, that's nuts. But then I'm also like, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not like, it was innocent people being killed. It was a sport. So can we address it as such? You know what I mean? Like, can we go, okay,
You're going to
that
infuriate a lot of people when you're going to
yeah,
compare
like, but
this.
it's literally, you have these morons on Twitter who are talking about Abu
Yeah,
Dhabi at a time when people in Ukraine are being killed, and they're saying basically Abu Dhabi 21 is the most important thing going on right now, and it's like, it's a
like
sport.
seriously. I
Please
mean, yeah.
stop. Like,
I mean,
it's
anyways,
just it's
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Let's put a tab on that. I mean,
yeah.
enough, enough.
Yes.
Lewis, Abu Dhabi, Mercedes. I mean, this is what Lewis does. 32. I think we went on for around 20 25 minutes on this on Lewis.
We should also say it's not what Lewis does; it's what a certain segment of his fans do.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about it as much.
He never talks about it. And
Exactly.
look, he's a classy human being. Let's be very very, I mean, the day I earned utmost respect for Lewis was 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix, where he let Bottas through on the last lap.
Hmm.
That's Max won't do it, Vettel won't do it, Alonso will never do it. And who else? Senna never did it. Michael did the other thing. Prost will not do it. Lauda won't do it. Fangio changed. Fangio took his teammate's car. I mean, if you talk about class, that is class. That is what
Yeah.
ultimately Lewis stands for and what he should be remembered for. Because he compromised his own championship. He gave up. He forfeited how many? I think it would be a 6 point gap, 3 point swing. He let that
Hmm.
happen because he gave his word that he'll return the position.
Yeah.
No one does it, and that's where he got my respect. Of
Yeah.
course, the other things, his fans are insufferable, to be honest. But that's the other. That's some other day. Yeah. Anyways, moving from Mercedes, Ferrari. Okay. So let's just to recap. Ferrari. It's in your view, it will be Carlos
The
Sainz and
same.
Charles Leclerc, right?
Yeah, for one
In
more
my
year.
view, it will be Lewis Hamilton
For
and
one more year. Yeah.
Carlos Sainz. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I'm sticking with. In case of Mercedes, I'm going with George Russell and Charles Leclerc. And you've made a mega prediction when it comes to Mercedes. It will be George Russell and Mick Schumacher. Look, if that happens, I'll buy you a beer, but I don't think it will happen.
It'll be insane.
Look, for a Michael Schumacher fan, anything good that happens to Mick, I'm more than happy. Because look, what happened with Michael, and I think I agree with the statement that both Ralph and Toto have made, that if Michael was around, uh, the shit that
Mhm.
went down at Haas, it would not have probably happened. I don't
Yeah.
think it would have happened.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think so.
everyone remembers how Michael just stormed into Eddie Jordan's quarters at Belgium when he ordered that. Who was it? It was Damon, right? Damon. He ordered Ralph Schumacher to stay behind Damon and not overtake him for the win.
Yeah.
1997 or 98. I don't remember which year it was. He
I
did
think it was
that.
90.
If
It
he
was
is doing,
98, wasn't it? I think.
I think when he himself had that huge crash with Coulthard, that was the race, right? He
Yeah,
was
I
already
think it was
angry,
98 if I'm not
so
mistaken.
probably that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he can do this for his brother, just imagine what he's going to do for his son. So yeah, that is
I don't
okay.
think
Close. Yeah, sure. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think I don't think his son would have been driving for Haas in the first place. I think Michael would have told him to wait a year
He would have been
to
driving for
look
Sauber.
somewhere else.
I think he would have been
Yeah.
driving for Sauber, and he probably would not have signed with Ferrari. He would have signed with Mercedes from the get go. It was a massive
Yeah.
mistake to, because he
Yeah.
had both the options when he won the Formula 3 championship. It was both
Hmm.
Mercedes and Ferrari. He went with
Yeah.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
Idiot.
I don't think he would have.
Anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
moving from this, I think for Ferrari, I don't, you've already shared, right? It will
Yep.
be okay. Okay, sorry. So
The
Ferrari
same
is done,
lineup.
Mercedes is done. Sorry, I've lost track completely. Now moving to Red Bull.
Okay.
Now moving to Red Bull, I don't think there's much. I think the driver lineup is going to stay the same. Max Verstappen and
Yeah.
Sergio Perez. I think that is going to be, that will be it for 2024. Not much of a change, unless Sergio falls off the wagon like crazy, or he falls out with Max, or tries to screw him over or something.
Unless
He's going to stay in that seat.
Yeah, unless he crack, even if they fall out, I think unless he crashes into Max, I don't think he's
Yeah.
going anywhere. I think at least for this season, and obviously that'll line up for next season. I think at the end of the day, they've got a car that should give Max a championship, and that's all they really care about, because we know they don't even care about the constructors title. We've seen that, so
No, they do.
you
They
know,
do. They'll have to care now. The money is quite. There's a significant jump apparently.
yeah, but you know what I mean. If it comes down to throwing
Yeah,
away the constructors to win the drivers, they'll do it.
they
Like,
will. They will. Yeah.
but yeah, so I think they keep Sergio for next year. Although maybe Daniel Ricciardo puts something in his soup and gets to drive for a few races.
Ah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, the only option I could see outside of Perez would be Daniel Ricciardo, and I can't see it happening. Like,
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I don't think so. Realistically, unfortunately, because I like Danny Rick as well.
Yeah. No, it's not going to happen. They're
No.
not going to do that because, first of all, Danny is a bit of an unproven entity right now. They don't know what they're going to get. Secondly, Danny is not going to settle for, if he's back at his best. Ricciardo is going to win a lot more races than Perez. The-
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to take a lot more points from Max, so they don't want that. I mean, they're not going to stir the ship for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
So I don't think so. I don't think it's
yeah.
going to happen.
So that will be the entire grid, huh? Let's see how many are actually correct once the whole thing is said and done.
Yeah. We should recap at the end of the year, at the finish of the
Yeah.
season, because we'll know by then.
Oh yeah. We look like idiots, to be
Yeah.
honest.
We'll either look as
I mean, I
Gunther
did the
Steiner says,
entire.
we'll either look like rock stars or a bunch of wankers.
Yeah. Mostly the later. Mostly the latter.
Yeah,
I mean,
more
yeah.
than
How
likely,
many?
especially my Lewis
Uh,
Hamilton one.
yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. I thought he was going to retire at the start of the season, but whatever he said and how he's approaching races, I think he's hungry. I think he won't retire.
Yeah, you're probably right,
I'm
but I
just
had to
my
make
view.
one
I don't
big
think he'll
prediction because
retire.
the rest,
He's
the
he's he's
the rest of my predictions were boring, so I had to make one.
yeah. Yeah, I went big with the Sauber prediction. Other than that, I think mine are still, yeah. Even I moved Lewis to Ferrari. Look, if
Yeah.
Lewis Ferrari happens, no, he's currently getting paid around 55 to 60 million, something like this, from Mercedes.
Hmm.
He's going to be paid a lot more. He's going to break records. To be
Yeah.
honest, Ferrari is going to splurge whatever is there in that coffer. They're going to splurge all of it for Lewis, for sure, just to rub Toto's nose in it, that okay, we can pay more.
That's true.
They always
Yeah.
did that. And yeah,
Yeah.
I have a feeling
Yeah.
that is going to happen. I hope so.
That
I mean, Ferrari and Lewis, that would be the last box to check. It's going to be a disaster. Spoiler alert. No one
it's
wins
not
with
going to
Ferrari
work.
other
Yeah.
than Michael Schumacher. No one wins with Ferrari. So yeah, that is what ultimately it will come down to.
Yeah. And Kimi Räikkönen, but that was more the fault of Alonso and Hamilton,
Yeah, even then it
ironically.
was Schumacher's team mostly.
Yeah.
2007 was basically the last. 7 and 8 were basically the last remnants of what Schumacher had built. Then 2009 came and Braun was gone.
Yeah.
Jean Todt was gone. So nothing
That was
to.
that.
Everything just fell apart. Yeah. Okay, so that's the entire grid. We went quite a long time. Thanks, Lewis. I mean, yeah, that man is content. To be honest, the kind of
Yeah.
content he can deliver, and that's why I say I hope Lewis drives for next 10 years, so at least I
Oh,
can earn as much until I can reach my retirement age.
I,
I don't
I
want
hope
him to
I'm wrong
retire
about him
ever
retiring.
because yeah, I mean that guy. Yeah, I mean he's one in a. I don't think once in a generation that kind of talent comes up. The kind of things he's done, stunning. I mean that's the thing. We went 20-25 minutes on just one driver, and basically that is how you can sum up Lewis Hamilton. The
Yeah.
entire podcast was something else, and he took the 20 minutes in it. That's how much time he can, how much you can talk about the guy. Stunning.
Well, yeah, Lewis and British colonialism. They were the two winners of this podcast.
Oh
So,
god.
hey, look, your subscribers can't complain, right?
Yeah.
They got a
Okay, by
history
the way,
lesson, they
tell
got some
me,
Lewis talk, and they got
okay,
a
tell me
grid.
something. Tell me something. If somehow, some way, Sky Sports approaches you for an appearance, Tomo did one in the most recent podcast. If they
Yeah.
approach you for an appearance next to Ted Kravitz, what will be what will be your take?
I saw
Do
Tomo on.
delete the tweets first.
No, I won't delete the tweets. I'll never get invited. Let's be honest here,
Yeah.
because obviously they hate the Irish first of all. But but no. Um,
Hey,
Honestly, what
they,
what I think is if I got invited, it
Hmm.
would be a bad call for them, and I hope they do their research because if they sat me beside Ted Kravitz, I know exactly what I'd be like. I'd smiles, jokes, laughs
Yeah.
as soon as the podcast starts. So Ted, can I ask actually before we kick off, what's your problem with Max? Immediately. And
Oh
it would
God.
be funny because I know his immediate response would be something along the lines of, "Oh, you're obviously a big Max fan," and my
Hmm.
response would be, "No, actually, I'm not a Max fan.
Yeah.
I'm just asking." Um, you know, so, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Look, I'm the type. I got a job interview once, and the guy said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And my response was, "Hopefully, not fucking here anyway." And I got the job, so
Yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Even me,
I'm the type
being
of
an
person that
MBA,
will say stuff
we
like that.
had we used to have these recruitment drives. So when even I got through, I hope my previous boss is not watching. Even I came up with some load of garbage at that point in time to get through. But yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyhow, we went on for quite a bit, quite a bit, quite
Mhm.
long for the very first podcast. I hope people don't doze off. Watch it in spurts, guys. Watch it in spurts. I'll timestamp everything. You can watch the part that you
You've got
want to
some
take a look
clips.
at. Yeah, we'll do a lot of things with this one. I hope it works fine. By the way, I hope you had fun. That's the most important thing. I hope you liked the entire ride. Hope it was good. We'll get together again. I hope we'll get together again. We'll have quite a few
Yes,
interesting things to talk about. Yeah.
100%. We've
Yeah.
got a lot of ideas already,
Oh yeah.
so I'm
A
looking
lot
forward
of
to it.
things in the pipeline.
Always a pleasure,
Would
man.
be fun.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for being here. Thanks a
No,
lot,
thank you
Jason.
for having me.
Yeah. Well, that's the first ever casual F1 fan podcast, guys. Pick up a pint, have a coffee, whatever you want. Watch it. You might like it, you might hate it, but watch it. Thank you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.